For me, Japan was Kansai. All the people around me were Kansai. Attracted the trolls of the Japanese internet. We don't need your foreign opinion. And I was like, okay, all press is good press, etc. So when I joined my company I'm working at right now, the Kansai people were like, yo, you're one of us as well. And I was like, oh, you accept me? I'm one of the Kansai people. Commented being like, oh, that's so funny. And I was like, oh, okay, I've got positive comments now. No one's telling me to go home. Like, this is the way it should be.
Hi, and thank you for tuning in. If you're listening to this, you're probably on episode 200 something. That's over 3 years of us producing the show. And seriously, we love it. It means a lot to us. As you can imagine, it's not easy to do. So for this episode, we've partnered with Zen Market. Zen Market is not just any sponsor. They're actually our colleagues from the office next door. Zen Market gets you access to Japanese e-commerce, niche goods, second-hand deals, things that just don't ship internationally. More details are in the link in the description. So if you want to support the show and help us bring you more stories from Japan, go check it out. And for now, let's get into today's story. Welcome to Unpacking Japan. I'm Toby, and today we have the pleasure to welcome Lawson. You go online by Honmani Lawson.
Honmani Lawson, yes.
Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for inviting me.
You do a lot of comedy online. You do a lot of finance during your daytime.
Yes.
You've got a very interesting journey that brought you to Japan, and we kind of here to hear out everything that you've done, and maybe specifically a little bit about your take on Japanese comedy. But let's go back to the beginning. You're from the UK. What brought you here in the first place?
So I've been here 10 years now, this time. So I came out here in 2016, and I originally came for work. So I finished university in the UK, took almost a year out, and then I got a job in Japan in Tokyo and moved out here. And I've been here since now, working the same job. And I became Honmani Lawson maybe 6-7 years ago, I guess, and now doing both.
What kind of spurred the desire to come here in the first place?
So it goes back to when I was 13 or 14. I started studying Japanese in secondary school in London.
Okay.
So I was very lucky to have the opportunity then. And really, because I studied for so long, so it was about 10 years, I guess. And then I went to university. And then when I finished university, for me, it was kind of, I spent 10 years studying about Japan and Japanese. I kind of have to go to Japan now. Because I saw lots of other people who were in my course or from my high school, my university, who they study Japanese, but then they just go and work in London or something completely different. And I was like, I really want to use my Japanese because I spent 10 years learning it. So my whole idea was, okay, I have to go to Japan. So that's kind of my main idea. And then I got a job in Tokyo, and that brought me out here.
Is it common to have Japanese as an option in secondary school?
No. Well, I don't know what it is like now because it's been a very long time since I was young. But back then there was only, I'd say maybe 6 or 7 schools in the whole of the UK who were doing Japanese.
Did you have a particular reason for deciding to go down that path as opposed to maybe French or German, which I would imagine are the typical secondary languages?
So I was really lucky because the high school I went to was 5 minutes down the road from where I was living. So I just happened to I was like, I'll go to this one because all my friends from primary school were going there. So I went there, but then the school had a speciality. So the speciality at the time was foreign languages. So the rules were within the school, you had to do 2 extra languages. So not even just one. So I was assigned to do French and German for my first 2 years of high school. So I was learning French and German. And it just happened to be that at the same time, my French teacher, she was this amazing woman who could speak, I think, I might be wrong, I think it's 5 or 6 languages.
Wow.
She could speak like French, German, Spanish, English, of course, and then also Japanese, which is, everyone's like, whoa, why? Because she lived in Japan for, I think, 3 or 4 years at one point. She was an English teacher, but also studied Japanese. And then she came up with the idea saying, because it's our specialty of the school is foreign languages. And at the time, it was mostly European languages. So they were doing like French, German, Spanish. I didn't even think we had Italian. But she said, maybe we should, go a bit further and do something a bit different. What about Japanese? So then she started this whole movement to get Japanese onto the curriculum. And I was lucky enough to be invited to a Japanese after-school club. So that's how it started. But it was very, very lucky because no other schools in my area had Japanese. Mostly it was like French, German, maybe Spanish.
Do you remember your first impressions of the language? I mean, when I went to school and we had options to learn Spanish or Italian, they're all Roman or Germanic languages, Latin or Germanic languages. And you can read all of them even if you can't pronounce them directly, and the methods of learning are the same, but suddenly you're in high school and you're faced with hiragana, katakana, kanji.
Yeah.
What was your impression?
Well, yeah, that's the thing that brought me most into it, because when I studied French and German, and this is no hate on French or German, but some of the words look similar, right? So for me, I was, back then I was like 12, 13, and I thought the idea of becoming fluent in a foreign language was like amazing. I was like, that'd be so cool. I definitely want to do that one day. That's on the to-do list. I'm going to put that up there. But then like with French and German, some of it I could, kind of guess some of the words. And some of the lessons, everyone was doing it. So we weren't really, I wasn't that motivated to kind of get fluent in it at the time. But then when I went to that first Japanese after school club, I didn't even know at the time that there was like 3 scripts, hiragana, katakana, and kanji. So I was like, wait, what? What is it? What is going on here? I was very confused. And then I found that really, really cool. And it was very intriguing to me, because I was like, how can you have 3 scripts? Who came up with that idea? That's crazy in a good way. So then, and when I started to learn it in the first few weekly lessons we had, I remember just being amazed that I had no idea of what was on the paper. I couldn't read it, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas with other languages like French and German, I could kind of take a guess. And maybe sometimes I'd be right, sometimes I'd be wrong. With Japanese, that was like never on the table. So for me, I was 13 at the time, but it was like a secret language. I was like, if I could learn this, I could talk to my friends and no one would ever know. I could write them notes. I could write love letters. Now, I wasn't writing love letters, but I just really liked the idea that I could speak in like this secret language and write stuff in secret language. So that kind of pulled me into it. And that made it different to me, to the other languages I was learning. And I really liked the idea of the challenge, especially because back then when I first started learning and I was talking to my teacher about it, and she said, most people need to learn around 2,000 kanji. I was like, what? Look at that. What? How long is that going to take? And then you've got hiragana and katakana. Well, that's, not as big of a thing, but I was like, this is a massive goal. So that really kind of brought me in of wanting to study it.
It's interesting because for many, maybe when you hear, you have to learn 2,000 of those characters, it might be a reason to maybe not go into it and go away, because it might seem like such a distant goal to become fluent. But it pulled you in. Yeah,
it pulled me in. It's weird thinking back to that, because I remember when I did, as you just said, when I first thought about that, and I was like, God, it's 2,000. Like that's like, maybe that's not going to happen. Maybe it's a bit impossible. But now, obviously, now I can kind of do that, right? So it's a complete different shift, but
you started that in high school, and then you actually continued language studies in university too.
Yes.
How is it being taught in the UK as a foreign language? I feel like a lot of people are maybe self-taught, or they come to language schools here in Japan. But when you learn this as a language at higher education, are there specific methods or specific approaches to how Japanese language is broken down?
So for me, when I first started, so when I quit French and German, so afterwards, after I started learning Japanese, I then came to the point where I had to choose my exams, my GCSEs for high school. And usually you had to choose one language, either French or German. But I spoke to the teachers and they said, you can do Japanese. Just, it's okay, whatever. So I got them to let me do the Japanese, and I started studying it officially. Not just after school club, it was actually a part of my weekly timetable. And what was interesting about that then is that it was actually a 5-year course. Mm-hmm. So you're meant to start at the same time I started French and German, but we had to do it in 2 years. So my last 2 years of high school, we had to kind of do 5 years condensed. So the first 2 years was it was like a fast track. We were just trying to, I guess it was kind of learning how to, get the grammar down. And then for each year, you had to know 200 kanji for the test we were doing. So I need to know 400 kanji, which is like a fifth of the overall 2,000 element. And a lot of it was, getting the grammar down and kind of knowing how to get an A+ or an A* in the exam. So it's fast track. But then when I moved to A level, which is the next 2 years before university, then it completely changed, because we had to start reading short stories in Japanese, and we had to write like mini essays, like sakubun. I think it was like 300, maybe 500 characters. Oh, wow, cool. Just like one of those, maybe 2 A4s, and you had to write it about the short story. So it was a different level, because it wasn't just kind of, in the previous exam, it'd be things like, talk about your day at school. And I'd be like, gakko ni ikimashita. And like, it'd be very, very simple sentences. But then the next one is talking about like a short novel, and you had to kind of analyze it and stuff like that. So it was a much different level, and we had to read the stories together, and we had to kind of break it down together and translate it together. So a lot of it was via reading. and literature more so, and a lot of speaking as well.
That's good, right? Because I feel like this is left out a lot, especially I went to language school here in Japan. The speaking part is maybe minor because everyone's preparing you for the JLPT, which is just comprehension.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Speaking's so important, I think.
And we'll get to that because this is now a big part of your kind of comedy. You speak a lot. But you graduate university and you apply for that job to Tokyo.
Yes.
Had you been to Japan before that?
Yeah, so I was, so when I came out here for my job, it would have been my maybe third time in Japan. So in high school, after my first 2 years of doing the GCSE study, my Japanese teacher changed. So the original teacher moved school, and then we had this Japanese woman come in, and she was amazing because she got us to go to Japan within 6 months because she came in and she was like, have you guys been to Japan? I was like, no. She's like, well, we're going to have to change that then. And then she spoke to, I think it was like the British Council, and got us funding and applied for loads of programs to get us on like a 1 or 2 week cultural exchange.
What a teacher.
Amazing. I was like, yeah, I love it. So much appreciation for her. So when I think that would make me 17 at the time. That was the first time I went to Japan. And I'd love to show you photos, but I had long hair. I had really, really long hair. It didn't suit me. It suits you. It doesn't suit me. So I don't show these photos to anyone anymore. They're deleted. But we went to Japan for 2 weeks, and it was actually Osaka, Namba. It was my first time. Happened to be Osaka.
What were your first impressions at the time as a high school student, just starting out with the language and coming over here?
I really liked it because I remember the whole program, it was like a 2 week small course at a Japanese language school in Osaka. So it was this program where in the mornings we'd have Japanese classes and we'd learn some phrases or some grammar or some words. And then in the afternoon we'd have cultural activities. So we'd go to like Osaka Castle. So one of the days, one of the things we did is in the morning, we learned how to say, can you take a photo for us, please? And then in the afternoon, we go to Osaka Castle, and they'd be like, right, you have to go. So I'd have to go up to random Japanese people and be like, can you shashin totte moraimasen ka? And then they'd be like, oh, okay, of course. Take a photo, and that'd be like your project for the day. Like I learned how to say it, and then I did it, and look, here's my photo. So we did that for a whole 2 weeks. And that was actually my first time knowing a bit of Kansai Ben, because all the teachers in the school were Kansai Jin. They're all from Kansai. And they were like, even in English, when they were teaching us, they were really funny, kind of like how Kansai people are. And I remember one of the teachers was like, you're like a Kansai guy. You're like, you would get along with Kansai people. I can feel it. And I was like, oh, thank you. Okay, cool. I'll keep that in mind. So that was my first time. And then I studied abroad twice. So in my first year at university, I went to Kansai Gakuin Daigaku, which is also in Kansai, for 4 months. And then 2 years later, I went to Kobe University for 1 whole year, also in Kansai. So it just happened to be the first 3 times.
And 3 times in Kansai.
Yeah, it was meant to be.
But then you got a job in Tokyo.
Yeah, I know. So that's quite funny because then with that, it's kind of more like an identity thing. Because for me, especially after having almost a year and a half, I guess, over my 2 studies abroad, especially because I was in Kansai, right? So, all the people around me were Kansai Jin, and no one was speaking standard Japanese to me. They were like, this is Osaka Ben, this is Kansai Ben, and this is what you're getting. So I was just exposed to Kansai Ben for a whole year and a half. That's why I kind of learned how to speak it somewhat, I guess. And then, as you said, when I came to Tokyo, I mean, it was actually my first time in Tokyo when I joined the company. I'd been to Tokyo, I'd been to Disneyland. I mean, that's technically Chiba, but I've been to Tokyo once or twice, but it's my first time living in Tokyo. So it was kind of a culture shock to me just because for me, Japan was Kansai. So things like when I'm in an izakaya and you kind of have jokes with the waiter or waitress and it's all funny. Whereas in Tokyo, sometimes people might not like that, or some waiters would be like, this guy keeps talking. And
did you have specific situations like that where
Yeah, well, I mean, now because I've been in Tokyo for 10, 11 years, I understand that some people don't really like banter in those situations, so I don't do it anymore. When I'm in Kansai, I'll be like, hey, and maybe say a joke or do a kanpai with the waiter guy and a high five, or because everyone's just laid back and we're having some fun. But I don't do that anymore in Tokyo just because it's not worth it, because not many people like it.
The risk is too high.
The risk is too high, yeah. And I think because I've been in Tokyo 10 years now, I'm kind of become a bit Tokyo-fied in that sense. But at the same time, so yeah, when I joined my company I'm working at right now for the first time, it was funny because out of all the people who joined my company at the same time, my doki, there was like 200 of us, and there was I'd say maybe like 100 people from Tokyo, and then there was like 3 foreigners, including me, and then there was maybe like 40 people from Kansai, and then other people from all over Japan. But yeah, there was only 3 foreigners, so I was obviously part of the foreigner group. But also the Kansai people, like, yo, you're one of us as well, which is really funny because
We want you.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you accept me? I'm one of the Kansai. So it was really cool because they took me on board, because obviously we're speaking kind of the same lingo, right? We was both speaking Kansai then. So kind of still had the identity, like, oh yeah, I'm Kansai. I still speak Kansai then, and I've got that kind of Kansai humor and identity in me. And it still happens now, like when I talk to other people and I can tell from the intonation that they're from Kansai, I'm like, oh, hang on, where are you from? And then they might be actually down the road from where I used to live in my study abroad days. And I'm like, yo, let's talk about the local izakaya. I used to go there. What about you? And I can just have these really like niche talks with people and conversations about random things that no one really would be able to do unless you lived there. So yeah, it's really interesting because I still have the identity.
You said that when you went to Tokyo and you joined at that company, you kind of all joined at the same time, 200 people from all over, and they all come to the headquarters.
Yes.
What was that experience like? It sounds like this very traditional Japanese kind of new hire experience. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
That was really interesting for me. Yeah, because as you said, I do work in a very traditional Japanese company. And especially the first kind of like the Nusha thing, that was, well, from what I imagine, it's a very traditional way. Obviously, I haven't done it in any other company, so I can't tell for sure. But it was interesting because there was many things that I think for me, because I spent most of my time in Japan as a student, right? I was always an exchange student at ryugakusei. So there were so many different rules that I'd lived upon until now, because when you're a student, even if you don't speak Keigo, like no one really gets angry with you if you're a foreigner, because they're like, he probably doesn't understand that I'm older than him, so he should speak Keigo, and et cetera, et cetera. But then the moment you become like shakaijin, it's like, obviously people expect you to understand that. So for me, I was quite nervous because it was like going into a new field where I'm not completely 100% sure of the rules. There was always going to be something where I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Sorry. So I was kind of, it was very nerve-wracking for me because, and also there was only me and 2 other foreigners. So there wasn't many people you could reach out to in that sense as well. And I was just trying to make sure I don't mess up too much. But it was really interesting in that sense. It's not something I think I could experience if I got a job in London. You know?
What are some of these kind of very typical Japanese corporate experiences that you've had when you joined that you kind of had to adjust to?
Let me think. So I think just things that I never really worried about much beforehand, just like the way you sit, or kind of things like your posture. Well, that's the way you sit, which now I'm making better,
adjusting a little,
realizing I'm on camera. And then also just like the way you address people and the way you kind of carry yourself and the way you hold yourself. Like up until then, I was a student, you know, so I wasn't really thinking that deeply about that stuff. But then now being part of a company, I have to kind of, spend more time of, understanding that and thinking about it myself, which is something which kind of I wasn't used to at the start.
You came to Japan because you said you wanted to use those 10 years of studies you had done up until that point. Now you are in a situation where, well, the studying is done on the scholarly side of things, and you actually have to make use of this. You're a member of that company now. Yeah. How was it for you, linguistically speaking, to adjust to this? God. You brought up Keigo, but generally speaking, how far did all the studying bring you compared to the reality of the job? Yeah,
that's an amazing question. Yeah, it was not enough. It was not enough at all. It's funny because I've been here 10 years, I can kind of look back and laugh. When I think back to when I was like Shinjin, or when I was in my second year, like just things like, when you're an exchange student, no one teaches you how to write an email. In a sense that, like, when I'm writing something to my client, I'll be like, "Nani nani san, itsumo osewa ni natte orimasu," and like, I type that blindly now. It's just, I press enter twice, it comes down automatically. Like it's in my computer's memory. But just things like writing emails, or just even just Keigo. Like I mean, I technically did study Keigo when I was in university. I say study, I learned it. I remember we had 1 lesson or 2 lessons. They're like, here's Keigo. here you go. I was like, okay. But then as a student, I'd never really used it. And I mean, I did baito in an izakaya. So that was like the first time where I had to kind of try and use keigo, especially talking to customers or talking to the tencho. It was in an izakaya. But even that, it's not really enough practice for when you're all of a sudden you're thrown into being like shakaijin. You've got clients you're in charge of. You've got senpai you got to talk to. You've got a boss you got to talk to. Everything has to be keigo because you're at the bottom, right?
Has this led to situations where like your superior pulls you aside and is like, Lawson, you can't speak like this, or you have to address the person like differently? And
everyone was really nice to me in my first year because people were very understanding that it was not out of malice. I wasn't being like, hey, I'm going to talk rude to you because I don't respect you. And people understood that it was just clearly he doesn't know how to do it or there's a lack of practice. So, I mean, I had senpai who would check my emails for me if I wanted them to just before sending them. If it was like a very important email, just to make sure I was saying the right things and it was easy to understand and it was the right politeness. And I have people, they would check for example, if I had to write a report internally, people would look over that for me and make sure it's okay. So people supported me so much, which if I didn't have that, then that would have been so hard because it's just one of those things, I think, with keigo and the respect and the way you speak and write. If someone doesn't tell you, you're never going to really notice unless someone pulls you up. And if that's a client, that's not really the best thing. But if it's internal, then you can kind of just go, yeah, thank you so much. I'll write that down and I won't do that again. So.
You said that 10 years wasn't enough. And I imagine other people may be in similar situations where they are about to enter a company or have just entered a company. And it can be like nerve-wracking when you suddenly amongst very few foreigners in the company and kind of having to meet new expectations and follow new rules that you don't yet know exist. How did you adapt to this on a personal level, aside from the support you got from some of your colleagues?
I think I tried to change my way of thinking into you can't be too polite. You can't be overly polite, right? So it's always safer to kind of go OTT with the politeness because no one's going to pull you up and be like, that email was too nice. How dare you? But there will be people who might say, whether it's a client or if it's your boss, who might say that email, you should maybe write it like this, or maybe you should not use that phrase. You should use this or this ending, or, so I think it's definitely easier to play it safe, and it's going to take time. I mean, for me, I remember when I was in my first year, I made an Excel document where I started copying all my senpai's emails, like just their phrases. So like things like, if they go back to a client maybe 2 days late, maybe, you'd write a sentence, be like, sorry for my email being late, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, oh, that's going in, that's a good sentence. That's going in the book. So I put in
the Lawson book of Japanese emails.
Yeah, of Japanese copy paste phrases you can use. So, and that's how I started off at the start, because if my senpai's written it and it's correct, no one's ever going to pull me up on it, right? So, and it's from a native person writing it. So it's the only way which I'm definitely right. So I remember I was making an Excel document and I had like different categories being like owabi and like kansha, like kansha no kimochi and all these things, and like things you write at the end of the email just before you sign off and stuff. And there was a period where I was like going to the Excel document and be like, what should I use today? And then after doing that for like a year, now I don't do that. It's in my head.
Press enter twice and it just...
that is also there. But it's also now I just know what to say, and it's kind of part of me now because obviously I just practiced writing out. But yeah, definitely things like that. You can make it as easy as you can for yourself.
This Japanese corporate environment can be very formal, very polite, a lot of keigo, and maybe quite different than a corporate environment back in London in the UK. Has that ever kind of made you question a little bit, like, oh, do I want to put up with this? From what you've said, you kind of were putting in a lot of effort to adapt and adjust. But were there moments where you kind of were like, why do we have to do all of this? Why do I have to write all these 10 phrases just to have this one message go through in the email? Yeah. And maybe find an easier route.
Yeah, I mean, there's been times like that where I've thought about that, of the what if I just kind of did what some other people did and worked in London. I could have worked in like a Japanese company in London, mostly in English. And there is a big part of me who thinks that because I use mainly Japanese in my day-to-day work. So there is part of me who does think about the what if I use just English? What could it be? But then at the same time, especially as you said just now, the first year was quite hard. The second year was quite hard as well. For me, I'm generally quite a stubborn person in the sense that when I decide to do something, I was like, I will do it. Even I've made this path, I will walk it. So for me, it was at the time, especially, it was like, I know it's probably, I had to do more work and more preparation than my other colleagues for a meeting or for a test or for a proposal to a client. But then at the same time, it's just, I kind of swallowed it up as, this is what I've chosen to do. And once I get there, it'll be easy, but just getting there is going to take a long time. But I do think sometimes, what would happen if I did go to work in an English environment instead? It could be completely different. I might be really bad at my job.
But one of the things that has happened is your Japanese level has continued to improve. Yeah. And it's gotten to a point where you've decided to turn to make content about it and content about the Japanese language and specifically comedy.
Yes.
You publish your content and your comedy under the alias Honmani Lawson.
Yes.
How did that get started? What made you interested in starting to make those videos?
So it goes back to when I was on my first study abroad, when I was in Kansai Japanese. So that was just after the big earthquake. I was in Japan. And back then, Instagram didn't exist. TikTok didn't exist. I'm very old in that sense. It was just YouTube. So back then, people used to say like YouTuber. It wasn't the influencer or content creator word. It was just all about being a YouTuber. And I remember, so it was my first year in university. And from April to, I think it's September, so around just over 4 months in the summer, I was in Japan. And that whole 4 months was very laid back in the sense that the whole objective of it was, we're in our first year of university. So it was just fast track your Japanese ability. Go to Japan for 4 months, speak as much as you can. And we were just doing Japanese classes as well. And just come back as fluent as you can. That was the whole objective of it. So for me, it was just trying to speak and learn some more and stuff. But at the same time, I didn't have baito. I didn't really go to like nomikai or anything at the time either. So I was like kind of very laid back, and I had lots of free time on my hands. And back then, I was thinking maybe I could do some YouTube stuff, but I didn't really kind of jump into it just yet. And then when I came back for Kobe University for 1 year, that was when I remember what someone said to me one day. They were like, you should do YouTube. And this is back, this is like 2013, so 13 years ago. And YouTube wasn't nearly as big as it is now. And there wasn't many, I think they call it like J-vlogging, like Japan vloggers. There was some people around at the time, but it wasn't a massive thing at the time. So I remember someone said to me, like, you should do it. I think you can do it. You'd be quite funny. So then I had some time on my hands. So I started doing YouTube. And I started doing it cultural differences. I was very majime back in the day. So I did cultural differences between UK and Japan. Because it was my second time in Japan and I was like living on my own in a dorm. So it was like becoming an adult for me as well. And first time living abroad for a whole year. So I was looking at the differences and telling people about that. And then when it came to the name, I was like, okay, so there's two things I can do. I can either just go with my full name and pretend I'm a celebrity, just go with my full name, or I could make a name up, which is kind of cool. And I was like, I don't really want to use my actual name because, reputation, right? That's scary. So I was thinking of a name, like what would make sense. And then the thing that I just thought made so much sense to me was Honmani Lawson. And the reason that is because I remember when I went on my study abroad, like everyone, there was like every day was some sort of like Ryugakusei party or like Konshinkai or some sort of like circle event. And like every day they'd be like, you should go to it and make some friends. So I remember for the first 2 weeks, like every day I went to some sort of event. And every time there was like, 50 people on each event, right? So you introduce yourself 50 times. And they'd be like, oh, onomae wa nan desu ka? I'm like, Lawson desu. And they're like, Honmani Lawson? Lawson? Konbini? And I was like, Honmani Lawson desu. And then like, it just became, first I was like, oh, people are really shocked at my name because it's the same as the convenience store. But then about 2 days in, I was like, okay, everyone does this reaction. So everyone was like, Honmani? And then, so every day I was just saying about 5-6 times, Honmani Lawson desu. That was what I was saying. So then I was like, that could be a name. That could be my YouTube name. So then I just made that my YouTube name, just because based on that experience.
And that's how it got started, with very serious videos comparing Japanese culture with culture back in the UK.
It made no sense, yeah.
But now you do mostly comedy, and you do a
Yeah.
very specific type of comedy. I think it's called tsurare warai.
Yes.
You kind of make people laugh. You want people to come along and kind of have a good time.
Yeah.
But before we dive into that type of comedy, what made you interested in switching towards comedy and kind of making content around that?
So that's actually an interesting story because when I first started doing the cultural differences, I did that for a bit, and then I kind of gave up because like no one was watching it, and I was like, this isn't what I should be doing. No, it's not funny. It's not cool. So I stopped, and then there was a period of time where I was like graduating university, so I was really busy, and then I was starting working in Japan again, also busy. So I had like a 5-6 period where I didn't really do much. And then when it came to COVID, so COVID happened and I was kind of work from home. I had a lot of time on my hands because like no one was going outside, right? So I was like, I need a hobby. So then I was like, maybe I should do that YouTube thing again. So I picked up YouTube again and I was still doing Honmani Lawson. And first I was trying to think, okay, I've done all the cultural differences between Japan and England that I know. So I can't do that forever. I need to think of a new category. So I started doing news commentary from the viewpoint of a foreigner.
Okay.
But no one knows this because I've deleted it because it's a very dark past of mine now. But
why dark?
I will explain. Just lock in. Here we go for the story. But so I was commenting on Japanese news. So things that happen in the news. So like COVID or just, I don't know, some random news event. It was just something I was doing something every day. And then when I was doing that, I attracted the trolls of the Japanese internet. So like lots of the anchi, they found my channel and they were like, we don't need your foreign opinion. They'd be like, go home and like all this. And I was like, okay, so, good, all press is good press, etc., etc. I was like, I'm getting comments. This is okay. But then it started getting really negative. People they really didn't like it. They were just, I found this group of people who just really didn't want to hear my opinion as a foreigner. So I was getting my comments on my video. They were just getting kind of out of hand, and it was getting really dark. People being like, "Go home. We don't need you here," and it was like kind of like discrimination and all that. And I was like, okay. I just kind of stood back for a second. And I was like, this isn't positive, right? So I was just trying to add my opinion. And I wasn't saying anything outrageous. I was just saying, this is what I think as a foreigner about this situation. So I was like, I didn't like this. It's not positive. And I want to do something positive via my channel. So I stopped. And then for one day, I just found this really cool video where someone made a compilation of, I think it's 5 or 6 different Japanese dialects from all over Japan. So not like Kansai Ben, as in like really obscure like places of a special dialect that not many people have heard of, and also things like Okinawa Ben, like proper full-on Okinawa Ben. And I just watched the video and I was like, I'm going to record myself. I'm going to see if I can understand this. So I did that just to see. And I was laughing and stuff because I was like, I have no idea what these people are saying, but it's meant to be Japanese. I was like, but what is going on? And it was really fun. And I found it quite fun. I found the video myself. I found it fun for me making it. And it was interesting at the same time. So I was like, I'll upload it and see what happens. And then people commented being like, oh, that's so funny. I never thought about whether a foreigner who is fluent in Japanese could understand such dialects. That's a whole new idea. That's quite funny, actually. And I was like, oh, okay, I've got positive comments now. No one's telling me to go home. Like this is the way it should be.
It's fascinating, right? You post one type of content and you get told to go home and to stop and to disappear.
Yeah.
You put another one and you get the complete opposite.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay, that's much more pleasant. That's nice.
And that's during COVID too, right? So work from home, already difficult times. So I can imagine the negative feedback from...
Yeah, it wasn't good for me. I didn't like it at the time because I was like, this isn't good for anyone. There's nothing positive. I mean, only the people writing the comments, probably they were happy with their comments, but no one else is happy.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, well, maybe they weren't, yeah. But yeah, so when I did like kind of the reaction to that, I was like, maybe this is a good thing. And then I kind of branched out to doing other reactions. And then I started, TikTok became a thing in Japan that time as well. So I started experimenting on TikTok as well. And TikTok has the reaction feature built in anyway. So I was doing reaction duets to like people's videos and stuff like that, and comedy videos or funny videos. And they started going a bit viral as well. And people were saying, no, like your laugh is so good and it's so funny. It's like, it makes me laugh. Contagious. And I was like, oh, okay. And then as I was going on with that, I started finding funny photos. And I was like, I want to share these photos with people, and I want to kind of laugh with people as we look over these photos. So I started doing like the green screen stuff on TikTok, where I'd find funny photos or photos that my followers would send to me being like, hey, I found something funny. I think you'll like this and I want to hear you laugh. So they send it to me and I'm like, great. And then I'd put it on the green screen and I'd laugh. And it all kind of became me. This is Honmani Lawson. This is what he kind of does. And all of a sudden I kind of found I wouldn't call it a niche, but it's like what I do. But yeah, it was a long path.
Has it made you interested generally into Japanese comedy as well? There's many genres, and it seemed like you accidentally stumbled into one. It's kind of like getting people to laugh along, which I didn't know until I was kind of looking a little bit into what you're doing and how people describe this.
Yeah, I think as well, like, especially when I look back at some of my videos I did, because I've been doing those type of videos maybe 5-6 years now. When I look back into like 2020, 2021, like some of the videos, I look at them now, I'm like, that's not really that funny. I say that as I laugh. As I look at it, I'm like, that's not funny. And then now I see my other videos where now I kind of react differently, and I react to different parts of the videos and stuff. And then why that has changed is because I've been kind of looking over many genres of comedy over the years, and also brushing up the way I do my stuff as well. So it has made me more interested in comedy because it kind of helps me be better at what I do. And I just like laughing. So I just like fun stuff. So like, no harm in watching some comedy.
But that makes it interesting because you're thinking now intentionally about how you do the videos. But originally you were
Don't tell them that.
Well, I want to break it down. I want to understand what makes the parts now funny. How does it work? And from what you studied, so to say, of Japanese comedy, what are the aspects that are funny here in Japan compared to what, let's say, would be funny in the UK, which I imagine could be one of your cultural differences video.
Yeah, I mean, am I from the UK now? I don't know, But I think the whole idea of having ochi, like an ochi, like
a fall.
The fall where it's kind of, you have a build up, and then for me, most of my ochi in my videos is the build up of me reading something, and then it's like I kind of make a funny remark about it, and bam, and then I laugh, and people just go, "Oh, so contagious," and everyone laughs. And that is something which I kind of think I learned from watching Japanese comedy, because that's not really an English or a British thing in that sense. And when I look back to my videos in 2020, 2021, I was just looking at stuff and laughing. I was just like, it's like, hey, look at this, guys. And there was no like pattern to it or anything. I wouldn't call it structured. Not that I do it structured now. It's not like the laughing isn't fake or anything, but now it's kind of like, it's much more got a base to what it is, and it's got a meaning behind it. Because I kind of know what would be funny, rather than just looking at it and going, hee hee, and just pointing.
Japanese comedy can be difficult to understand at the beginning when people watch Manzai for the first time, or they are watching like variety TV. What were your first impressions when you started looking at this actively and kind of try to understand what was going on? Because you spoke the language, so linguistically there was no barrier. But was it funny?
No, there definitely was as you said, there's no linguistic barrier, but there is like a humor barrier. I think if that's the right word, in the sense that there's like a cultural difference to the humor here. And even within I'd say for like Tokyo programs and like Osaka programs, like there's like some differences there as well. But I remember when I was back in England, and I was like, there were some clips on YouTube of like comedy programs in Japan and stuff like that I'd watch to try and just for study, to help my ears and my listening. Because, especially with the comedy programs, it's so fast. Right? People speak like they're rapping sometimes. When you're still studying Japanese, it is very, very fast. So I was kind of trying to study it in that sense. But I remember when I first watched it, I was like, sometimes I was like, I don't get it. I don't get the funny part, but everyone's laughing, like the canned laughter. And I was like, I understand that that's the point I should be laughing at. But at first I didn't really get it. And I don't know if that's a culture thing, or whether it's maybe my linguistics weren't as good as I thought they were. Maybe I thought they were better. But first, no, I didn't really get it. But then after living in Japan for doing a year, study abroad, and also 4 months, and then working here for some time, I think there's so many intricacies which is about daily life or things in Japan where if you're not in Japan and you don't live here, then I think it's hard to pick up the funny aspect maybe. Like there's some things where, you know, if people make a joke about like main densha, you know, like the fully packed trains, if you've never experienced that, like, I mean, I've experienced that so many times on the way to work in the morning where I'm like packed in a tuna can. I'm like this, you know. So if someone makes a joke about that or a reference on a comedy show, I'd be like, yeah, I get that. Oh my God. And it'll make me laugh because I'm like, yeah, I understand the funny reference they're making. But I think things like that I picked up after living here for so long that now I can kind of laugh to more things because I've experienced so much more that I can understand the joke at the end.
So the cultural context is important to kind of understand the build up to the ochi.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
This ochi, this fall, is there like a specific marker to it, a specific way that is being brought up? I guess we have punchlines too in English comedy and such, but you said it's quite different. The ochi is unique to Japan.
Yeah, I mean, I've said something really big then. I don't know how I'm going to back that up. But like, I think for me, the important part of it is the lead up. The lead up and then the bring down of the fall, the bringing the fall down as well at the same time, in the sense that for me, when I do it in my videos, it's very calm, like a calm sea. And all of a sudden I bring the storm of my laugh. I don't know why I'm talking about like this. I'm talking in these metaphors of water, but
please go on.
Yeah, it's a Friday afternoon.
Thursday.
Oh, sorry. Well, that's why I keep thinking it's a Friday. No wonder I'm talking like this. No, but I think it's because then I kind of bring together the whole idea of breaking the joke at the same time with the laugh as well. It's like a double punch, right? So that makes the whole ochi much more effective rather than kind of like a punchline that we have in English where it's kind of like you just say it and that is all it is kind of within the words, I think. I think that's kind of a difference there, if I explained that.
You do a lot of reaction videos and you react to things that you find funny. In order to keep doing this, you need to find a lot of things very funny and entertaining.
Yeah, I need to keep being happy.
What are some of the things that you particularly enjoyed reacting to? I mean, you've done a little bit of everything from Kusuatsu and Tamori's Club and many more. What are some of your favorite things to kind of look at and find happiness to? Yeah,
so I really do like... I don't know what would be the best ones I like. I think one, especially wordplay. I like stuff which has wordplay. It has like double entendres and double meanings because it's kind of you have to use your brain, and I like that because I think I get happy when I know the other meaning as well. So it makes me laugh. But I kind of like their kind of smart, intricate jokes, which I think is over all different genres. So I don't particularly have a certain genre I like, but I do really like personally the comedy shows, the warai bangumi, just because I just find them so funny in the sense that it's just very standard talk, but then people just throw in jokes out of nowhere, and it's such a skill which I admire, and I find it just cracks me up all the time.
Do you have any favorite that you kind of would recommend for people that are interested in?
What I used to watch when I was young, back in the day, was like Honmani. Just because that is like, it's really fast paced as well. So if you can keep up with that, your Japanese must be really good and also the level of humor as well is really high. So if you can get all of that in one go, it is a good sign that you are doing well in Japanese and in the humor world.
You mentioned there's a difference between what's done on TV in Tokyo and here in Kansai, and your background is Kansai, and your Kansai coworkers tried to pull you over, and now you're still in Tokyo, but comedy is still talked about from being the cultural export of Kansai, so to say.
Yeah.
How different is it, and how do you experience those differences between here and Tokyo?
So in that sense, I think I kind of learned my humor in Kansai because, I mean, when I was on my year abroad, I spent a lot of time hanging out with people, going for dinner, sometimes going for drinks and going to izakaya and just having lots and lots of fun. So, and lots of my friends that I was surrounded with all would do like tsukomi, and like they just crack jokes all the time. And I think because I'm surrounded by such funny people that I also had to be funny, because otherwise you get all the jokes coming at you. So you need to fire some back. So for me, like I've like inherited the Kansai kind of humor culture in that sense. So I'm not completely schooled about the Tokyo culture of humor in that sense, but I do feel it's different in the sense that when it comes to Kansai, there's a lot of like tsukomi, and like being able to do tsukomi at the right time is like such an important thing in the Kansai culture. If you try to do tsukomi and you do it at the wrong time, people are like, what are you doing?
How would you explain this to someone who's not too familiar with it and how it works?
Just remember, I'm not good at English. No, so tsukomi is the whole idea of kind of saying a joke and like breaking in at the right humorous timing to get a laugh. In the sense that if someone's like going on a rant about something or going on a long talk about something, and you want to kind of put a joke in there to kind of make a joke out of the whole situation, there's good timing and there's bad timing. So I think what's very important in Kansai culture is that there is this kind of timing of that is when you say the joke. Like, is it at the start of when the person's talking? Is it in the middle? Or is it after they've been speaking for 5 minutes? Or do you leave a gap and let there be a little, like, just everyone slow down, calm down, and then you say the joke? Then do you butt in? So it's kind of like this really weird, not weird is the wrong word, that's cut out, really intriguing idea of kind of knowing the right time to jump in and say the right funny thing, which is something which I've only learned via doing it myself, and kind of people being there at the same time and saying funny things at the right time and kind of working out, so that's when I should like make a joke and that's when I shouldn't.
And when everyone turns around to you, that's when you shouldn't. And they're like,
yes. Yeah. People like will pull you up and say, you're a bit late. You should have said that maybe 7 seconds earlier. You know, so
that's that precise.
Well, I mean, sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah.
You need to spend a lot of time in izakayas to kind of really get the gist of how this goes around.
Communication, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When you started making this comedy and it kind of started growing, gathering attention, we talked before we started recording about content creator, influencer. You said YouTuber before as well. Yeah. Was there a time now that this is a possible career path for others that you were like, oh, maybe I can become a comedian in Japan. I can switch to just doing comedy.
Yeah, I've thought about it. Definitely. Just because, I mean, lots of people say it to me as well. They say to me, like, surely you can just live off it now, live off the laughs. But I haven't gone down that road. Because for me, I like the structure of having a job. So having a job gives me structure in life. If I quit my job to just do kind of content creation or be an influencer, whichever word we go for, I think you'd have to really like have some structure, daily structure in it. Otherwise, I can't imagine it being. I think it would not be fun. So for me, I like doing both because it's really complete opposite, right? As you said at the start when you introduced me, like I do I wouldn't even say 9 to 5, maybe like 9 to 7. 10, yeah, no. I'd say I do an 8 to 7. But so yeah, and I'm at work being like majime Lawson, and then I get the train home, and then I'm family Lawson. You have to be dad Lawson as well, and then when the lights go off, I turn on my camera and start laughing at it.
And then your child's in the room next door. Like, what is dad doing?
Yeah. Why is dad not sleeping? Why is he laughing on his own? So it's just like, it's fun because then I have different aspects of life, right? And I like having that mix right now. So I've never really seen the idea of having to kind of just choose one. At the moment, it still works having all of it done. But I have thought about it.
That brought up multiple questions at once.
Okay,
I'll pick
let's go.
One to start with, which is when you do something like creating content online, especially one that gathers a lot of public attention. And in your case, specifically, your audience is mostly Japanese.
Yes, mostly.
I imagine one morning, one Monday, you walked into the office and someone's like, Honmani Lawson. Was that you doing the joke?
Yeah.
But did that ever kind of create questions, or did you have to make efforts to keep things separated? Or
yeah, no, I have had that before, even with like clients as well. So I've had times where I've had meetings with clients where, I mean, especially during COVID, because everything was work from home. So I was on Zoom from like 9 to 6 daily. I was online 9 to 6, like we were doing meetings with clients and stuff. And I remember sometimes clients would say to me at the end, like, complete different off the topic, but have you heard of Honmani Lawson? Because you look a lot like him. And I'd be like, yeah, I get that a lot. That crazy guy laughs, holds the earphone. But no, they'd be like, because I'm his fan. I'm like, oh well, actually, it's me. Yes.
It lightens up the mood with the clients.
Yeah,
as well.
Just to make sure, do you like him or not before you say that? It changes my response. So no, there's been times where I've met clients who are like, oh yo, I know who you are, and that's kind of that's nice as well. And at work, most people know already. So that's not really. I don't get any like kind of unusual things happening because of that now, because people already know. So that's fine. But it has been interesting with clients when they recognize me. And I'm like, well, how should I play this one?
How to manage, how to get out of this.
Do I say, yes, it's me and give a high five? Or do I go, no, here's my business card. Here's my meshi. Forget my surname, please. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's something that you were explaining as well, right?
Yeah.
When you started out and you picked your online alias, you wanted to keep it separate. You wanted to keep your life private. But now through your work, you actually meet a lot of people professionally and hand out.
Yeah. That's the only thing there. So there are people who obviously, as I said, when I meet clients who know who I am, when I have to obviously give my meshi, they now know my full name and where I work. So that is one thing which is a bit of a concern, because I do want to keep it as separate as I can, just because I don't want anything, like I was saying earlier, when I started out doing the like commentary on Japanese news, and there was like this, like lots of trolls coming to my account and saying really nasty things on my account. If that ever was to happen again, I wouldn't want that coming to my company or coming to my work email address, or, I wouldn't want to get fired because of something like that happening. So I do my best to keep it completely separate, whilst at the same time there is going to be instances where people are going to find out that I have two faces, and just have to deal with that as it goes.
The other aspect of it is family. You mentioned that you have to be the Majime Lawson, the family Lawson, and then the Honmani Lawson.
Yes.
How do you balance all of this? How do you kind of...
I don't. Balance is not a thing I'm good at. But I mean, I think, I do find the balance is quite difficult, because obviously, I work in a Japanese company. So I do, I do some overtime. And then when I come home, I try my best to be present when I'm at home with my wife and my kids. But then at the same time, I also have to do content creation every day as well. So that's usually after everyone goes to sleep. So then I have my 1 or 2, maybe 3 hours of doing content creation.
And when is your sleep?
After that. So after that. And then, I do try and use my time wisely as well. So like, on the train home from work, I would try and use that to edit or check comments, or do some email stuff for my content creation. I do try and mix that, but there are some times where you just have to, when you, as you guys know as well, when you have to edit a video, sometimes you just have to bang it out in 2 hours. So it is a constant challenge, but it's fun. So if it wasn't fun, then I don't think I'd be doing it. But because it's fun, I can kind of just like take it on board, just get it done.
You started the passed down comedy because you wanted to laugh. You wanted something that lightens up your mood too and makes you happy. Yeah. How do you feel like doing this has maybe changed and shaped your perspectives of life here in Japan when you are not at work and not doing comedy, but just like your general outlook of life here and society here?
What a beautiful question. It's definitely made me more positive, because I think for me, so when I speak normally like this, it actually confuses people, because they're like, you're not laughing all the time? Like, what?
You're not walking around like a One Piece character, just
where's
laughing?
The earphone? Why are you not holding, where's the green screen? It does confuse people, but for me, it's really good, because obviously, there is, like, as you were saying right now, there's like the dad version of me, there's the working version of me, and then there's the Honmani Lawson. Not that I have multiple personalities, but it's at the same time, I do try and think in a different way depending on the scenario. So even when I'm at work or when I'm being like a dad, sometimes I can be too serious about stuff. And then I think, actually, what would Honmani Lawson think? If let's kind of step back and think in a way, let's just be more laid back and more positive about this. And so in that sense, it has made me kind of give me another aspect of a different way of looking at life, rather than just being kind of like, just like Majime Lawson all the time. So it does make the outlook much more brighter in that sense.
If you had to do news commentary again with your...
I'd probably laugh at everything.
Yeah.
It's snowing tomorrow. Ha ha ha. Like,
does it, news commentary can be daunting sometimes, because there's a lot of negative things in the news, but would you say now that you would be able to find a more positive outlook on things?
I'd have to find funny news, but because when I was doing it that time, it was, it was back in COVID, right? So not much good news in the news. It was all very depressing. I think it's very, very dark news all the time. That was, I think, was part of why that didn't go that well. But no, if I could do it now, I think I could find a more humorous aspect to things. There's a lot of dark news going on right now, but look at other stuff, and try and find something which people can find funny. I think I could potentially do
I'm sure you would be able to.
Yeah, hopefully.
You described yourself as someone who likes to see things through once you put your mind to it. Yeah. And you went down the corporate path. You committed to your content creation. You've now done these things for like a decade, living here. Looking back, do you feel like you have seen things through, or do you feel like it's still everything just an ongoing process?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. When I look back to when I first started doing my YouTube stuff back like 10, 13 years ago, I never thought I'd get where I am now. In total, I have over all my platforms over around 1 million like subscribers, followers right now. I never thought I'd ever get anywhere near that, especially when I was doing, I don't know if you've ever seen my first video ever, but it's no edit, by the way. It's hilarious. I reacted to it. You have to. Oh my God. It starts with me putting down my phone. You can see me putting down my phone and it falls over because I'm using the back camera, right? And I'm putting it up against my laptop because I didn't have a tripod. And I was going, this is the first cultural difference you get in Japan. And then no cuts. It was crazy. I actually reacted to it a few years later because it was funny. But looking back to that and then thinking I'd be where I am now in this beautiful studio. Thank you. I didn't think I'd get this far, but at the same time, it's still like an ongoing thing for me because I definitely want to keep putting out more content, and I don't want to just stop where I am right now. I want to grow my channel and do more things. Maybe I can do the positive news again.
Yeah, that could be a Lawson's positive take on the news.
What news? There's no positive news right now, but yeah.
Well, where does that leave you now? What are your projects that you kind of would like to get started and you would like to kind of put out there that you're interested in?
Yeah, so with my content, actually, I've been thinking about doing lots of new things. Because, a lot of my content is just me. It's just me and my own. I'm like a lone ranger in that sense. Me and a green screen and my earphones. But I want to do more talking stuff. Especially in Japanese. So I'm actually thinking of doing a kind of podcast type thing as well.
Interesting.
Just because I like having the extra side of Honmani Lawson, because everyone, when you see my shorts and my reels, it's only like 30, 35, 45 seconds. So
of you laughing.
And 99% of that is me going and just laughing, right? But there's another side. And I found as well with lots of my videos, when there's been something really, I don't know, something which I feel like I need to speak about. For example, sometimes I do kind of like, I wouldn't say serious, but like a majime video where I do comment on something where I feel like I need to say my opinion. Seeing as I have a follower base, so I feel like this is my opinion about this thing. So for example, when Abe-san, when he was assassinated, when he was shot, I made a video about that being like, this is like, what is going on? Oh my God, like this is what is going on? This like situation is just out this world. Or it's unbelievable. Or things like when there's been some things in the news where people, I don't know. I've been thinking of doing a video recently about kind of the whole discrimination thing in Japan, which has been kind of growing over the last year and a bit.
More serious topics.
Yeah. Because every now and then I do a video like that. And then lots of my followers and subscribers like that because they're like, you're not just a laughing guy. You've actually got a brain in you and you have an opinion, which is good because some people lots of my followers do say to me like, what do you think about this situation? Because this situation, maybe it does affect Lawson. So what does Lawson think when you've been living here 10 years and you've got a family in Japan, you work in Japan? So I do kind of want to branch out into that a little bit as well, but obviously make it positive. I don't want to be too majime and like too serious because, you got to have a laugh, right?
You did say something interesting just now that you now have followers and subscribers that are asking for your perspectives on certain matters that can happen, which is interesting because you in your day-to-day, you're like a salaryman, like a lot of people here. And then you have created a platform for yourself online. Yeah. And the Japanese people that you see in your day-to-day, they don't necessarily come up to you and be like, hey, Lawson, what do you think about this matter? Tell me about this. But then when you have an online platform, suddenly those same people might through the comment section be like, hey, what do you think about that? And
it's really interesting because I remember when back, maybe 5-6 years ago, when I had on YouTube, I think I must have just hit 1,000 subscribers. And I was like, this is it. I'm famous. I've made it now. I'm a YouTuber. Back then I'd make a video saying something, I don't know, for example, maybe something about a social topic like discrimination in Japan or something like that, or something happening in the news at the time. And obviously nobody would really care because it's just me 1,000 subscribers saying this is what I think, which is completely fine. It doesn't mean I'm right, doesn't mean I'm wrong. But now it's different because people, as you were saying, like in my comments, people do say to me, or they message me and they say, I want to know what you think. And you sending out your message, you know, for example, my YouTube, I have like 200,000 subscribers. That has an impact. So it's a double-edged sword in a sense that it's great that now there's a bigger platform for people to listen to what I want to say. But at the same time, it's dangerous, right? It's scary because there's so many ways it could be taken out of context. People could just take it the wrong way.
And the comments of "please leave Japan" could come back.
I mean, those comments, I love them now. I get happy when I get those. I mean, that's when you know you're winning, right?
Yeah.
No, so it's much better now because, well, some people just reply in the comments for me now, my followers.
So that means you have built a community as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't even have to look at the comments anymore. I don't even look at the comments actually. Sometimes, not the bad ones, because I just laugh at them. Sometimes I respond to them. I actually react.
Just give them some attention.
I went through a phase actually last year where I don't know what happened. Someone had a bad week, I think, and someone just started putting really nasty things on my TikTok.
Every single video.
Yeah. And so this is what's quite funny now. Someone commented on one of my videos a few weeks ago. They're saying something like discriminative, and they were like, "You should go home." And then I if on TikTok or on YouTube and also on Instagram, you can send a reel or a short or a TikTok video back as a comment, and the comment comes up, right? So you can reply to it with a video. So now I do that. If someone says something really outrageous, whereas back in the day I couldn't do that because I could do that, but no one watch it. Whereas now I actually use it as content.
Interesting.
And then they delete their comment.
Whoa.
And the world's a better place again. You know, so because like someone commented saying I have really bad teeth. People watching this video, please don't check my teeth because they're not.
Now that you've said it, they're gonna play back from the beginning.
Yeah,
and
just zoom in on it. That's good. You got more views. No, so when I actually like picked up their comment and I responded to it with a teeth filter, laughing, going, "I know I have really bad teeth. Thank you so much." And then it got like 100K hits. And then everyone commented being like, you know, "Lawson, don't worry, your teeth are beautiful. They're not the best. I could do better." But like, so it's really funny now because I can make it into content. And because I tried to make it positive. And people find it funny because they said, how can you take such a nasty comment and then laugh about it? That's like, you must be so mentally strong, which I think is just the way I try to be about it. Because for me, I'm like, that's great. You've given me another video for today. Thank you so much, hater. You know, so it's making it positive, right?
Making it positive, making other people happy and feel more positive.
Yeah.
I think this is a core of what you're doing with Honmani Lawson. And I'm sure your colleagues at work are also happy to have you like that in the office. We covered a lot of topics and you've got a lot of projects ahead of you. Yeah. Is there anything that we didn't really get into that you would have liked to bring up today?
That's a big question. God, let me think. Any topics that you'd like to talk about?
I think we went through everything that I was thinking about before getting into this.
Oh, really? Okay, good.
But there's usually, or sometimes there isn't, something that maybe you had on your mind. Like, well, actually, recently this happened, or I wanted to bring up this, or have this top secret project that I want to reveal to the world. That now would be time to do it. But if there isn't, that's totally fine too. Well,
so one thing to mention is I've actually started doing more projects outside of YouTube, which has happened recently. So I'm on radio sometimes as well.
On Japanese radio?
Yeah, on the NHK radio for English learning for like shogakusei. So I've been taking part in that. I've been getting offers for like commercials as well.
Wow.
Well, not commercials, like little parts in like the Warai Bangumi. So I was in one a few months ago where I had to play like a rich man. I had to play like a VIP guy. I just wore a suit. No, but it's quite funny now because I'm branching out. So people will see me on more platforms, hopefully. Which is I'm really happy about as well, because right now I've been doing mainly social media, but now it's kind of radio and bits of TV are coming on out now. I'm getting more opportunities like that. So if people do see me, I do want them to be like, I know that guy.
And this is the guy, the real.
This is the real guy. Yeah. The real Kombini.
Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you
It was
for
a pleasure
having me.
having you, kind of
Yeah.
hearing a little bit about your journey, your
Yeah.
story, and your perspective on things. And I think that the takeaway for me is to kind of look at the positive side of things, and it will make the rest brighter too.
You've summed up beautifully. I
Yeah.
might use that as my new slogan.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you everyone for listening and watching.
Thank
This was
you.
Unpacking Japan, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you for sticking with us all the way till the end. We really appreciate it. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to the podcast. It helps us improve the show and bring you more in-depth conversations from Japan. Take care and see you next time.